with the latest on the corporate front, all the market trends, expert opinion, and sound business advice. It is your unique window into the business world, direct from the heart of China.
Hello and welcome to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Coming up, we will have half an hour of business news and analysis. On today's show, manufacturing surge. China's manufacturing sector experiences a significant boost with the Caixin manufacturing PMI hitting a 4-month high in December. And we will also take a look at the first homemade cruise ship in China makes its maiden voyage. And now let's begin with our top story. China's factory activity expanded at a quicker pace in December due to stronger gains in output and new orders. The Caixin manufacturing PMI rose to 50.8 in December, and the Caixin services PMI was 52.9. And meanwhile, China's official PMI, which includes both manufacturing and non-manufacturing activities, came in at 50.3 in December. So how is Caixin manufacturing PMI different from the official PMI? What does it indicate about China's manufacturing sector? And what's the current situation of China's economy? For more on this, join us on the line now, Caixin Research Fellow from Beijing Foreign Studies University, Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, and also Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. So, Professor Qu, I will start with you. Now we have both the official PMI and Caixin PMI. And Caixin manufacturing PMI came in at 50.8 in December. So what insights can we draw from this latest data? Is this in line with your expectation?
I think it's very important for our audience to know that Caixin's PMI and the Statistics Bureau PMI are a little bit different because the Statistics Bureau, they pay attention to what we call scaled enterprises or big manufacturers. So they're measuring how the big companies are performing. But the Caixin, they paid attention to the SMEs, small, medium-sized, and the retail and wholesale businesses. So more like they are in a frontier, get very close to, the sentiment change in the whole national economy. So Caixin's number is actually showing that, the very end of our, economy, the very frontier of our economy is getting warmer and warmer. This is not only within my expectation, but also it's very much in line with my investigation because, I really, pay attention to what's happening in the real field. So I paid lots of visit recently to some shopping malls, wholesale market, and the retail markets. And I, asked a lot of shopkeepers. Most of the feedbacks are, yes, it's getting definitely warmer. Families are swooping in to purchase things for the holidays. Many of the small shopkeepers, restaurants, hotels, they came in to buy the things to get things better, to replace the old furnitures and etc. So from this, I think you read a really good sign that Chinese economy is gradually and steadily back online. So I think Caixin's PMI really can tell us is in 2024, Chinese economy is back steadily and firmly.
And when we talk about manufacturing in China, Professor Qu, a lot of focus now is on structural adjustment. So how do this contribute to the high quality development in the manufacturing industry?
Well, you see, the Caixin's number plus the Statistics Bureau's number together will show you a very big picture, and probably that represents the future trend of Chinese economic shift. One, I think the small and medium-sized economy and businesses surrounding people's life is definitely going to, develop further in the future. And second, I think is the big giants with heavy technologies. For example, blue economy, green economy, digital infrastructure, solar panels, EV. This are definitely very important dynamic for the future Chinese economy development. But I think the third part, which is the property market related industry, like in the construction business, is still waiting to, be reversed with the curve. And in the future, I think China probably will just stable that kind of expectation in this property market, but focus more on the high tech and the new, what we call new productivities. And new productivity is very, very important because we need this upgrade in our economy to seize the commanding height in the world supply chain. So by several top industrial sector or top companies, we can support the major weight of our economy and support the living standard of our people. So this is going to be our trend and the future happening in the next 1 or 5 years.
So, yeah, actually, how do you think this adjustment can enhance the quality and efficiency of the manufacturing development?
So I think Professor Xu just mentioned, all these industrial upgrading that with all these different technological developments, this is going to really restructure China's manufacturing sector and to the broader economy as well. So he mentioned a few really the leading technologies and also industries. So for example, advanced manufacturing and AI and EV and new energies. And I think all of these are very important. On the one hand, from the demand side, these would require more investments and higher quality investment going forward to propel these industries forward. And they will also create more consumer demands because of the new innovative products that are going to be on the market. And more importantly, these industries development would also create high-paid jobs, skilled work, and that would help to boost income and also consumption. And from the supply side, I think not only these technologies will lead productivity growth, but also once they are applied and integrated into broader industries and the economy, they will really help to drive the so-called total factor productivity growth. And so I think from the supply side, this is also very important because China can no longer rely on the extensive growth, right, by putting more resources into the production. But what it needs to do is to have productivity-driven, innovation-led growth. So I think that's why it's important, when we looked at advanced manufacturing and how the implications are for the broader economy.
So Andy, actually, Professor Chu mentioned the new productive forces. So what does it mean? And what are the differences between that and the traditional productivity?
Well, that's a great question, Zhaoyang. And before I answer that, I want to add a little bit to the previous discussion. As Professor Chu and Yan shared with us, I think that the overall economic outlook for China is largely positive. But for me, what was an especially positive note, and even a little bit of a surprising one, is that the Caixin PMI also shed some light on export trends, not just a reading of the private sector in China. And this was a little bit surprising because there's been a lot of pessimism about globalization in general, and in particular, global trade. So I think this is positive. And I think how does this then relate to this notion of what you just mentioned, these new productive forces? And I think that one way we can understand this is a focus and a prioritization of new technologies. And I use this framework of ABC, right? Atoms, bits, and cells. So everything from manufacturing, energy, space exploration for atoms, so things that we can touch, bits or the digital world, especially I think developments in artificial intelligence, and C, cells, meaning life science, so everything from pharmaceuticals, gene editing, improvements in agriculture, through botany, zoology, improvement in animals. And I think that this is something that really is just a continuation of what we've seen since the beginning of reform and opening in 1978, when Deng Xiaoping emphasized the four modernizations, of which science and technology is one. So, again, I think this is very important. And as Yan mentioned, increasing productivity is very important for China, not just because of demographic changes, advances in society where labor is becoming more expensive, but also for environmental sustainability reasons as well. So clearly, I think the signal from the government is unmistakable that this is very important, and I think we are going to see a lot more attention paid and a lot more breakthroughs in this area.
Mm-hmm. And so, Professor Xu, we also want to talk about China's consumption. So what do you think are some of the characteristics and highlights do you witness of this year's holiday consumption in China?
Yes, I think from 2003, I think there are very clear trend about Chinese consumption change. Previously, people are very keen to, what we call the big consumption or luxury consumption. People like to buy brand products, luxury decorations, and also houses and big cars. But recently, I think people are more intended to buy what we call, healthy product and also good deal product. What does that even mean? One is, after 3 years of pandemic, and also you see currently all over the world, there are like flus and etc., all kinds of the disease. People really want to keep healthy. People pay attention to their lifestyle. So, getting close to the nature, tourism, people want to experience, to get healthier with their physical condition, to, purify or upgrade their spiritual status. So you see the tourism business in China has really been booming. This New Year Eve, we've been welcomed more than 3 times of foot traffic to celebrate the New Year's Eve, and more than 5 times of international tourists going out of China. Just to remember, this is already based on the crazy number of last New Year's Eve. So this growth is a phenomenon, and many people are getting to the ski yard, getting to the natural resort, and also get reunited with their family. So this is a trend. And also many people are trying to, learn about traditional Chinese medicine, Chinese therapy. This becomes very hot, not among the old people, but among the young people. You cannot imagine how popular my traditional Chinese therapy class was among the young students. I never get so popular by teaching Chinese medicine. So, and also second thing, I think it's about the good deals, performance to price ratio. It's really something people, paid attention to. For example, like in Japan, when they shifted gears in our economy, Uniqlo popped out. And when Europe shifted gears in economy, Zara popped up. Everybody know they are, what we call good deal products, good to look, good quality, but also the price is very reasonable. And in China, in the past 1 or 2 years, similar trend also happens. For example, like the Miniso, like Xiaomi, and also like the BYD EV, they become very popular among people. People love to go green. People love to have lower consumption. The oil guzzlers are not an option anymore. And also in China, we see the traditional culture become very hot. In this New Year's Eve, God knows how many people are dressing up with the traditional Chinese hanfu. People fervently chase the museum, all the antiques, and also the traditional music. So all the things are coming back. We say history is a cycle, and this is a new cycle coming in. Mm-hmm. So I think for all the businesses, they really need to pay attention to the change and, to have some other planning for their future operation.
So in the new year, what do you think are some of the expectations and opportunities for the development of the consumption market?
Right. So I agree that we have seen consumption preferences and patterns have been changing. But at the same time, I think there's also somewhat concern about on the scale and also the growth rate. We want to see even more consumption growth, to stay off the sort of deflationary pressure in China. So, it's no doubt that consumption has grown very rapidly. And, when we looked at the first half of this year's number, consumption actually grew more than GDP. Consumption grew at more than 8%, and GDP was growing at 5.5% for the first half of the year. So I think, there are really grave concerns about consumption is not strong enough in China, but I think that is an exaggeration. But at the same time, I do think that there should be more room for consumption to grow. So for consumption demand to grow, I think for one, we need to make sure that people have the jobs, the income to support the sustainable consumption. So we would need to continue to provide support to private enterprises to create jobs. We could also provide more public sector jobs and some forms of job guarantees and training programs for the young people. to facilitate job and income growth. And for two, I think we would also need to help to lower, the precautionary savings by some households. So some households do have the money to spend, but they may be cautious. Maybe they were holding the money, to enter the real estate market, when they feel the price is good enough for them. But in any case, I think we could still increase some sort of social spending, public services to provide, better healthcare, to provide more, public services. So then people will be confident to spend. And that's, I think, also what President Xi has emphasized, that, just by giving people income subsidies or consumption coupons may not go very far. What we need to do is to make sure people have the money to spend, have the confidence to spend, and also have the willingness to spend, to have, all these wonderful service products like what Professor Chi emphasized, like tourism, some of the cultural events, and many of the service sector products that I think people would like to consume. So I think in the new year, again, we need to do all those three things: ensure the income, jobs, and ensure the confidence, and ensure the right type of products. Especially now that we have talked about the gray hair economy, right? People are getting older, and so they require different kinds of products and experiences, and we need to make sure that we supply those.
And Professor Chu, Chinese President Xi Jinping in his New Year message said, while the Chinese economy has sustained the momentum of recovery, steady progress has been made in pursuing the high-quality development. So what do you make of that, and how resilient is China's economy this year?
China is the largest, market in the whole world. I mean, effective market in the whole world. We have more than 300 million middle income class, and it keep on growing. Probably after 5 years, we're going to see more than 500 million middle income class in China. And those people are not just laying in there waiting to consume, and they're also producers. China is the largest manufacturing force in the whole world. We are the stabilizer and the facilitator of the world supply chain. Just take a look at the current inflation happened in the past 2 years. The reason why the inflation can drop so fast, I think China's productivity back online is one of the major reasons to achieve that, right? China bring down the cost of the products. China made sure that choke point in supply chain be recovered, and goes without China, you will see the whole world, supply chain will be in a chaotic situation. And also, I think, secondly, according to President Xi's comments, I think another strength we have is China's keep on shifting gears. The new productivities that we just mentioned is very important because, in the future, a nation, well, like what we have already seen, the growth pattern, like in America, like in Japan, South Korea, Germany, France, a nation will always try to shift up the gears. You start from the labor-intensive industry, and then you do some modern manufacturing, and then at the final phase, you will have the high tech and the new productivities. So this is the key for a nation to climb up the value chain and to keep on providing for the world customers and market. China is doing this, in the past several years, and we have already seen achievement. For example, EV, solar panel, wind farms, digital infrastructures. So it shows that we have the strengths and willingness, and efforts to do that. And in the future, I think China is going to keep on providing good products for Chinese people and the world consumers. And also China, because of its growth, we're going to provide back to the world a bigger market. So that's going to be the resilience and benefit of Chinese market. I think no one can afford to ignore that.
Well, we are speaking with Xu Qiang, Research Fellow from Beijing Foreign Studies University, Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, and also Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. And after a short break, we'll take a look at China's first homemade cruise ship makes its maiden voyage. Stay with us.
Deep Dive, a podcast of CGTN Radio. We go beyond headlines with reporters from around the world. Search for Deep Dive on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Take a deep dive into the news every week. Hear our conversations.
You're listening to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. China's first homemade cruise ship has made its maiden voyage. Adora Magic City sailed from Shanghai to destinations in South Korea and Japan this week. So I will start with Andy. So what do you make of China's first homemade, cruise ship made its maiden voyage? What is, the cruise line experience like? And will there be more consumer demand in China for it?
Yeah, Zhaoyang. So, from a personal perspective, I'm very happy to see this. So going on a cruise is a lot of fun for people that have not had the opportunity to do so. The ships for me personally were much bigger than I imagined. And it's really like a mini city with restaurants, of course, swimming pools, like being in a hotel. Many people can, I think, immediately understand that. But some of them even have classes. It really is like being on a floating city. So at a personal level, I'm happy to see this and actually looking forward, hopefully sometime this year, to going on this cruise. If it's possible to still book a billet or a room on the ship. Mm-hmm. From a more analytical perspective, I think this is an important milestone. So shipbuilding is incredibly capital intensive. It requires a high level of technological and engineering and project management expertise. So I think, again, this represents a natural evolution in China's progression economically. And then from a consumption perspective, I think we are seeing hundreds of millions of Chinese with rising levels of disposable income, increasing sophistication as well. And I would also say a desire for novelty. So adding a domestic cruise ship offering is very exciting.
And so, actually, this Adora Magic City sailed from Shanghai to destinations in, South Korea and Japan cities. So what does it mean for this area? And what does it mean for, tourism and cruise line business?
Right. So I think this is a great starting point for China to play a more weighty role in this, cruise line business. And, in 2019, before the pandemic, there were about 2.4 million people in China went on a cruise. And so that is the second largest country after the United States. But this is only about 1/7 of the U.S.'s, consumers who take on cruise. So I think there is a huge market in China. And, the fact that this new cruise line has over 300 meters long, 16 decks, and it could accommodate 5,000 passengers at once. And it has a lot of features, for Chinese consumers. It has, mahjong lounge. It has theaters that play really sort of Chinese movies and so on and so forth. So I think, I agree with Andy. So from the production and also the operation side, this is really a milestone. This is a great starting point. Let's not forget, this ship takes about 25 million of different components from more than 100 suppliers all around the world. So this is really monumental in terms of, the capabilities and capacity for China to be able to build this mega project. And then from the consumption point of view, I agree that, with all these wonderful features that really cater for the preferences for Chinese consumers, and also, with people's preferences for tourism, to going abroad, I do see that there is a great demand for cruise line. And this one, you are right, it's only going to, these two countries for now. But I think they are expected to expand. They're going to go also to Southeast Asia, and in the future, they are going to join, the Maritime Belt and Road route. And so there's a lot more to come. And not to mention, they are building the second same kind of mega project, second cruise line. So again, there will be, I think, greater more projects like this, more cruise ships like this, and more demand down the road.
So, Professor Chu, so this is a milestone, actually, and the evidence that the country's shipbuilders can handle most of the challenges of a project. So, what does it say about China's shipbuilding capability?
China is not a traditional ocean power, right? But, in very, very good way, China just rise up as one of the major shipbuilder in the whole world, especially in the past 20 years. I think since China has mastered the technology of the white dock shipbuilding, and then everything took off since then. For example, China mastered the technology of the tension leg offshore drilling platform for the oil, and China get the technology of the LNG ship, very, very large vessels for the LNG transportation. And also China built its own aircraft carrier. There's very few of the country can do that. And also China has the technology to build the offshore wind farm. This is not a ship, but also it has a lot of shipbuilding technology. And right now, China has technology to build its own luxury cruise ship, very large ones. For the smaller one, many countries have the capability to build them, but for the mega ships, luxury ones, China has the technology to build it right now. Well, for building a vessel, this is not a challenge for China anymore, especially since we have 20 years technology accumulation. But you have to understand, you're like moving a 5-star or even 6-star hotel onto a ship. It's like Shangri-La. You moved on the hotel, with more than 5,000 people, running safely, but also having a very, very stable and very comfy life on there. So it's a systematic project. So these are like moving a city, not only a hotel, but moving a city up on board. So if a country can build that kind of ship, it does not only mean have technology of building a good ship, but also it means this country has mastered the technology of building all kinds of infrastructures. So this is actually phenomenal.
Well, we're speaking with Xu Qiang, Research Fellow from Beijing Foreign Studies University, Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, and also Andy Mark, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening.